There we go. So from this device view, this is pretty much the main view that you'll have within packetTrap. So you're getting basic system up-down information. When there's a little guy like this, it means that there's an agent installed. So all these other devices are actually being monitored by one or two of the agents I have out here. So I'm kind of dispersing the traffic. So when you run a network discovery, initially you have to install an initial agent to get a foothold into the customer's environment. There's no VPN access necessary as long as the agent can resolve back to the packetTrap host server. And if you have specific questions on that architecture, just go ahead and throw them into the chat window. I can talk about that towards the end. To get more detailed information from a device, all you need to do is double-click on it. Once you double-click on a device, this will provide you with key statistics such as installed applications on your left-hand side. Each one of these is a tab. It's actually a working tab. Networking statistics. You have your Windows events log, so you can see, you know, what happened before, what happened after a specific event. SQL Server, logged in users, and whatnot. So you got your disk volumes. Again, you can connect the device straight from here and run tools. Now, all this is monitoring, and I'm going to tie it in towards the end. Some of you might be wondering, well, where do I create alerts and whatnot? So I'm going to tie that towards the end. I'll click this little blue button to go back. So that was, for instance, a Windows 2003 server. Again, color coordinated, so this green light, red light type of traffic light, this refers to the status of the device. So green means that it's up, red means down, yellow there's a particular alert triggered or a monitoring problem, and you can find those devices up here at the top. Here's a few categories of devices we support. Again, anything that can have an agent installed, Linux, Mac, Windows, as well as anything that's pingable, has an SNMP capability to it, our product can monitor. Much of the time you'll find it'll be out of the box, so if you have a Sonic wall, an HP, a Cisco device, enabling SNMP is all it takes to monitor it from packetTrap's perspective. Obviously discovering it as well. Okay, I lied. A few other steps, but it's pretty simple. So to get more information, let me show you what we do on the network side. If there's any questions on the desktop side, I'll cover patch management and scripting as it's separate modules. But if any questions, let me just read through this real quick. Depends. So somebody asked, like, what's the best practice when it comes to utilizing agents? We recommend installing agents on every single device just because it gives us better control. But obviously, in some business cases, you don't need to have that within the desktop environment. So it depends on how your customers' infrastructures are organized and what they have in place. Second of all, monitoring in networks. If you have separate locations, then you would want to use separate agents to monitor the local, switches and routers. That keeps the latency low. You're not going to get more false positives, and the data that's collected is not shipped over a VPN or another form of connection. So, yeah, in that scenario, I would recommend putting two agents. And again, the gentleman asked if using agents is the best practice, and yes, it is. But we can talk about that offline. Again, good question. So let me double-click on, let me show you what we get from a router or switch perspective. Here I have a couple of routers and switches. I have a couple of Cisco devices. I have a Sonic wall, Barracuda, Juniper, HP. One I go to that I know that's working, that's where our simulation is an HP. But we collect this same data from many other devices. So I can pull syslog, I can pull SNMP traps. One of the cool things, I'll talk about this, is the network traffic flow. This right here it's a high-end Wireshark, so think of it as that way, as a packet analyzer rather than a packet sniffer. And it gives you a very good amount of detail on what's traversing the network, what the behavior of certain applications are, who's using them, the source, the timestamp. So you can see, if you get an alert, particular interface is high, as I like to use this, you can double-click in here, and you can see who's using what applications are running over what port. Right here, you got a nice little pie chart that tells you over the last hour. You know, we can click on trend chart, and that'll tell you in a graphical display over that same time period. Again, I can see what websites people have gone to in that particular. So once I know what time frame I'm looking for, I can see by usage, or I can see, you know, double click on here. I can see when these websites were accessed in the last hour and by whom. What applications are running. You can look at the top 10. So this is a really cool tool to have. We can capture this from any device. So obviously, it's a lot better if the device supports flows. You can just point it to the packetTrap agent that's monitoring it. And that's the other answer to the question that was asked earlier is, you know, dispersing traffic. Like, do you want one agent monitoring the whole network, or do you want some agents monitoring different devices, different layers of the network? So it depends on the type of information you want to capture, but you would want to disperse the load, of course. Let's click back. We also have specific modules. I'm not going to get too much into that, but a VIA module, what basically the difference is between the policies, which I'll talk about towards the end, is that we've constricted the monitors. So you can't remove the monitor. So for instance, you have a Cisco wireless controller. We can see all the access points to it. But when I go to here and I click to edit it, this is how we configure all the alerts and add the controller. For the monitor section, these are all grayed out, so I can't control them. Within the policy, though, it's controllable, but you don't have access to the Cisco wireless controller module. You'll have access to the other ones, just not that one. So what we've done is just locked it down so that there's not any mistakes. Let's jump into, let me see if IPSLA is enabled on this. So another thing we do on routers and switches is monitor IPSLA. So here I'm getting the MOS, the jitter, latency between, so I'm measuring it from this device to, you know, got different amounts, let me see, changes. Might not be completely enabled, but you got latency chart, and we can alert off all this, and I'll talk about that towards the end. So let me jump in here.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, could you put your phone on mute so that it's more of a...
Oh, sorry. I'm unable,
no worries, man. No worries.
I'm unable to see my the desktop.
Okay, no worries. We can go through that. So for desktop management, let me just find one here. So these are all down. Let me see. This one is not. This is a server, though. If you can put your question in the chat window, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Oh, I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing it now. Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Why do we provide the host? I don't know. So let me talk a little bit about the network maps that we have here.
That's funny.
So, person that asked about a typical network issue, you know, with the network issue, there's so many things that can go wrong. You can have an interface that's down, and I'll talk about that towards the end. I'll kind of wrap it around. First, what I want to do is, just for everybody, you know, our solution is a network monitoring tool. So what we do is we spot trends and alert off them proactively to help you resolve issues. And what I'm showing right now is just some of the features that you will use depending on the scenario you'll have. I'll talk about some of the case scenario towards the end. So give me just a second and I'll wrap that up. That's a good question. So the network map here, let me back up a little bit. Let me go into a global one where I actually have it set up. So you might have offices in multiple locations, so you can see the status in a high-level overview this way, and drill down further to get a network map such as this, from which you can drill down to device and then remote control into it. So one type of scenario that I can think of off the top of my head that packetTrap is designed to support is if, if a configuration file has changed on a router or switch, core router or switch, that will disrupt the entirety of the network to whatever degree, wherever the configuration file has changed. Sometimes it might be small, may not cause complete problems, such as you might have, load balancing enabled. So, but to get alerted off that proactively, somebody might have reset it to default, trying to fix an issue because they were having some problems they thought, and they went in and they reset it. So you want to know when the configuration files change. With packetTrap, not only can we alert you off this, but you'll be able to go back into the device. You have configuration backup enabled, and you can compare it to a previous time. Using this feature right here, you can be proactive in preventing a more catastrophic failure, or increasing the uptime for the customer, reducing the downtime that they might have experienced had you let this go on. Another issue that you might have that you can solve with packetTrap is sometimes, when customers complain that their network is running slow, it may not always be a issue internally. It might be something that can be blamed on the ISP, that they're not providing the available bandwidth. For that, we have in our community is a custom script that can be utilized to measure the available bandwidth that your customer is currently receiving. So that way you can go to the ISP and say, hey, you're not providing what you, so if you're paying for 100 megabytes up and down, you could, theoretically be receiving between 70 and 80, that's fine, but if you're receiving somewhere between 50, that could be an issue for your customer. And you can use packetTrap to report on that. That's another, case scenario. Do you have any specific ones I can go over as well? We also have network diagnostic tools that can be used to, so if you're onboarding, let's say, new applications, you want to test the reliability of the network, how much it can take. You can use a traffic jam tool to bombard the network with a certain amount of packets, and then measure the packet loss, the latency, the behavior as if it's you're adding more traffic to the network from, let's say, a VoIP solution or some type of media, depending on the vertical that you guys are servicing. So you might be, creating an offline backup or something like that, and you want to see what times would be best to start that process. Let's jump in. So some of the, quickly, just to go over the modules, I'm going to jump into the alerts. Reporting. We have some group reports, individual device reports, network traffic flow reports, so the traffic flow I mentioned to you previously. You can schedule these reports. You can create your own custom reports up here. So let me just jump into a device inventory report just really quickly. Let's do networks. So when you run a network discovery on the customers, everything's enabled. You can run a network discovery report, so you have a before and after. So when you start servicing, you have this information here. And scheduling reports pretty easy. Just go to reoccurrence, select the type of report you want to schedule. Here I have some custom reports I've created, and the wizard's pretty simple. So I won't stay on this too long unless somebody has some specific questions. Configuration, you have your scripting. We use any kind of standard shell or batch script that you can use. Now, there's built-in scripts here. Scripts can be used on a frequency. So if you want to continuously run a disk defrag every 2 weeks, or within the alert, which I'll go over later, you can schedule an action to be run or a script to be run when a certain condition is met. So again, we can run any form of script. So if you have, you want to run it on a shell, you can just type in sh in here. Now to run a shell script, you can select the operating system, and then just paste the script in here that you have either written customly, or you can pull the script off a website, or we have scripts on our community, just clicking on the community. Patch Manager is a quick overview. So you can control your patches, configure the automatic updates, or monitor them. By clicking on the default action here, you can just approve the patches automatically. So if you have updates that you want to be automatically approved, you can go ahead and just click that. And then it'll install it at this particular time. If it requires a reboot, you have an option here. Antivirus deployment, policies are separate. We partner with Viper. So you have your different policies here. These are independent policies of the overall device policy, which I'll talk about in a second. Administrative section is kind of self-explanatory. You have your configuration, user management, branding, your MIB library. This is for custom SNMP monitors. So anything out of the box we don't monitor, you can create custom SNMP monitors for that. That's report settings, let's see, retention data, flow configuration, baselining, and I'll go over the baselining in a little bit in the alerts as well. Let me jump quickly into the dashboard, and then we'll touch base on the alerts. So dashboard is just a quick knock view of your customer's infrastructure. So, you know, so with the custom dashboard, again, this is a knock view. You can drill down into specific data points that you want to look at across all your customers, across all your networks. So you can really customize this space right here. You can get charts like this. So the detailed device view, when you double click on it, is very detailed. It's just, you know, you actually have your megabytes per second. Here's more of a graphical interface that you can create. So you can have something along the lines of this here. I can put all that network traffic flow stuff up in here. So once you know, what I mentioned before with the, one second, guys. All right. So once you know, one of the aspects of using the ISP script to measure the available bandwidth is you can go back in here and you can look at utilization from a graphical perspective. You can see what was going on in the past hour, if anything, that may have contributed to the loss of network connectivity. So you have that option within the dashboard right here to kind of look at some of the occurrences over a period of time. But the way packetTrap, you know, acts proactively is within the alerting framework. So let me just jump into one of the policies here, and we'll talk about that. So here we have everything we are monitoring on this particular device, and we're listening to syslogs, traps. We got the configuration backup enabled, network traffic flow. We're monitoring ports and whatnot. We're going to go into the alerts, and this is all the alerts that we can monitor. So what you saw before with the baseline, one of the cool things is instead of alerting off a fixed value, you can alert off a baseline, an average that you've configured in the administrative section for the devices. And what this will do is it'll mitigate against false positives. Anomalies just occur over time. You can use the fixed value as a floating baseline in some way. So you can say if this happens, you know, in the duration of 30 minutes. So you're kind of, in essence, creating your own baseline. So there's a very powerful way of creating additions. So it's kind of, you know, if this, then that. You know, you can make multiple conditions to create the specific alert and alert off any or all conditions. So let's say if we create a disk free size alert, compare it to a baseline. So if there's huge jumps, we can start cleaning temporary folders or run a script to see what was installed. So another alert that we can have is, this is primarily more on the desktop side, where is it, software inventory changes. So if there's been something that's been installed or uninstalled, we'll have that set up as well. We're building out a lot of support, obviously, for Dell routers and switches and Force 10s and whatnot. So some of these alerts are coming. There's a whole new release coming out in the very near future. They'll have more support for that. So I'm not sure if there'll be more alerts. I believe there will be. But we can alert off SNMP traps, syslogs. So we can not only just off the facility or the severity, but you can specify a specific message that it contains. You have your exchange counters, application event logs. So pretty much anything you can think of that I was showing you previously, we can create proactive alerts for Windows services, ports being open or not responding, system uptime. And then based on those conditions, we can create actions. So when we want to restart a service, kill a process, run a custom script, so we'll go to our script library. And, let's say we want to run a disk defrag, we'll go to our Windows system scripts and clean up temporary folders. Go ahead and select that, and that's what the system will do to remediate the issue. So, so are there any questions at this point? I know I've been talking for a while. So how can packetTrap be used to assist in packetTrap? You have to know what you're kind of looking for in a sense. So with a network monitoring tool like this, we can alert off syslog messages. So if there's been, let's say, somebody's been trying to log in and they've been unsuccessful, you can create a syslog message that will alert you off that. So when there's network performance problems, you have these pre-configured alerts that will demonstrate to you and the end user that what the issue was. So any questions relating to, jump in here. So just for instance, this is an ESX server. One second, guys, I'm just reading all these questions. I'm trying to, so somebody asked about ESX. So this is an ESX server. This is just from the root credentials. You get your virtual machines. With packetTrap, by utilizing, if you're using sysprep or VMware View, you can install agents automatically on these VMs once you spin them up. So remote control, one of the ways that you can log in, so for a network device, the cool thing is, the packetTrap is logging into, let me jump into a switch or router. Say I want to log into this specific device. I don't have to physically RDP into the customer's environment to log into it, to this IP, the local address. Click on connect, and we have a web proxy capability. And what this is doing is just building a socket for this agent that's monitoring it. Pull that up. Oh, I got to run the studio. It's not going to work right now, but it does work. Let's see. Any other questions relating to policies, dashboard? So I do have a sonic wall right there. Yep. So some of the questions you guys are asking, I'm trying to, I think are interesting, and I will get back to you. Probably not on this demo, because they're a little bit more detailed, and I don't want to take everybody's time to address those, but I will get back to you. Someone wants to see the network traffic flow. Let me just pull it up again. That's kind of easy to do. I pretty much covered the whole, all the features of packetTrap. So how would you use this proactively? You know, how would this product actually save you money? Let's talk about that. First of all, we can monitor any device, so you don't have to go through other vendors or other softwares. You can have everything under one roof. You can remote control into the device. Everything can be configured from this interface, whether it's a AeroNet or a Juniper. That's the one benefit. The other thing is we can alert off them. So what is the cost of a network integration, or, you know, everybody's has things in the cloud. Everybody kind of moving into that space. Some people still will always have, you know, servers and critical information that they can't move until they might put in a colo or not. Regardless of that, all that's left within the premise for an office, whether they're working from an office building or they're working from, you know, their home, is you have to have a router, you have to have some kind of modem, you're going to have PCs, and sooner or later everybody's going to be mobile working off their own devices. So there's connectivity that needs to be monitored, and packetTrap can monitor for hardware errors, for instance, off SNMP traps. For on Dell devices, we're capable of monitoring for, you know, power utilization. So how much power is actually being consumed by the device? Is it causing too much heat? CRC errors we can alert off if you know, there are signal losses. If there's basically all these alerts by themselves are not critical, but combined, if any few can happen at a specific time, are indicative that there is a problem, whether it's a hardware error, a wiring error, connectivity error of some sort. Making sure that the network is stable and that the customer is paying for whatever the available bandwidth that they have it, and prioritizing with the network traffic flow. You can, you know, on more advanced networks, you can prioritize the traffic, so it's going to help you adjust your QoS settings to see what's actually traversing the network. When certain individuals use certain applications, maybe they shouldn't be at all using them. So solving those type of problems. And that's where packetTrap comes into play. And if there is an issue, we can create an alert for it that will allow you to respond proactively and go in and remotely fix the problem. So with the reports, you can run a historical data to see what the utilization was, but having those proactive alerts is what's going to be indicative. Now, you don't always have to get alerted off certain alerts. You can create baseline for alerts, but not really get alerted off, and then you can use that history to go back in time to see what if anything occurred previously, such as an event log or a sys log, that may have caused the error that we're experiencing. So for the hardware stuff on Power Connects and the blade and the servers, if the management utility if there's an agent installed or the management utility can send a trap, packetTrap can collect it. So let's say we want to look at a history of utilization for a switch. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a switch. I don't know which ones of these are actually up, so we'll believe this one. So here we can look at the utilization over the last week, last day. So if this was a switch, we'd have many more interfaces here. We can also do a group device report for the same category. The report here that for CRC errors. Device availability report, and a few others that you can run to look at some of the historical facts about, what occurred before the device went down or an error occurred, whatnot. So, let's say somebody was surfing the web or downloading excessive amounts of data or files. First of all, you can configure to some degree on some devices SNMP traps for certain data to be alerted if they're going through a specific interface that they shouldn't be. That's one way. The other way is you'll get an alert that if you're monitoring the network and you have SNMP enabled, you're going to get an alert. And when I was in the traffic flow, I kind of went over this a little bit. You'll get an alert that an interface is high. So from this device, we receive an alert that utilization is above a baseline, that it is above normal. So we've created an alert that, for the last week, we've created a data point of 4 weeks, let's say. That's pretty good. 2.5, 3 weeks is okay, and that's our baseline. And all of a sudden, we detected that we have traffic that is running at 40% above the baseline. So normally it's running at, let's say, 30 megabytes. All of a sudden, it's just jumping to 58, 60% over a period of time. So we want to know what's causing that traffic. So we're going to go into our network traffic flow. We're going to go down the interface. We're going to select that interface so we got an alert off, and then we're going to look at this hour, past hour, to see what the traffic was. So if somebody's streaming YouTube, we'll see that right here. We'll see what application they're using as World Wide Web. We can double-click on it. We can go to the individual conversation, or we can go to the application, and then from here, drill down to that endpoint. Once we know what endpoint it's going to, then we can take different steps such as remote controlling it to the device and seeing what is going on with it. So the report that you can provide for your customer will be right here. Top flow for the endpoints, so traffic that, and then the websites that they're actually going to. You can also, the dashboard can also be used for the customer. They can have their own unique login with a customizable dashboard that I showed to you earlier right here, where they can actually be trained on this tool and use it themselves to see what websites a particular individual is going. So the MSP can, offer this as a service to them as well. Just customize a dashboard with this information. You don't have to give them the full one. You can give them the one that has the flows or the domains. So there's one, this is for conversation, there's one for domains. And then they can see, what websites, or they can look at the devices. Well, so somebody asked on the reports, can reports be shown to utilization reports total for period, or is it only for individual polls? Depending on the frequency of the polls, that'll be your period. So, for instance, this hour, so if we're monitoring interface utilization every 5 minutes, that means that we've pulled it 50 minutes. I can't do the math in my head. Yeah, so one of the reports we have is the executive summary report, which has the available bandwidth built into it. As long as you're monitoring the WAN interface, you can have that. Then you have here your internet bandwidth usage. So you can customize a report with the totals in there. You go to network utilization report, one of the reports, let me just go through this one. For multiple devices. Interface, and then you have total right here, the total max. So you add that to the column, you create a custom report for totals. And you can make it multiple devices, you can make it for one device. So we're kind of getting into the detail stuff here. I want to move away from this. Any other questions on packetTrap? One thing I didn't cover is the network discovery. Pretty simple. Just click on Add Devices, and if you want to create a new customer, just New Customer, and all your customers in this drop-down window here. Just clicking on Add Devices walks you through 2 deployment methods. Also, to the gentleman that asked, I'll go over that personally with. Yes. Just go through the wizard, and that will install the agents. Again, if the device supports SNMP, the reports can apply to the device. Any report, as long as the device supports SNMP and we're monitoring it, we can run the report on it. So if it's a non-NetFlow device, we have a capability to enable flows on any device. They don't necessarily need to support flows. It's a lot better if they do support flows. But if they don't support flows, there is a way to utilize PT flow, which will require, if you just go to our community and you type in PT flow, you will find it. So again, we can, and that requires just port mirroring of the interface you want to get the flows on. So for instance, this agent device right here, this is what we would do. You would point the flows to the agent device, and then you'll be able to run those reports. So here I have network traffic flow enabled on this server. So I'm isolating the traffic to this particular server's network card. So I only have one interface here. Yes, there is a way to do that. Again, those specific questions I can address more intimately on a one-on-one. I'd be more than happy to. I just wanted to provide you guys with a quick overview of the features of packetTrap. It's a very powerful tool, to detecting problems. There's a lot this tool can do, so to go over every single scenario is tough under 1 hour. I'd love to hear myself speak, but I think I'm getting a cold. So any questions on our VoIP capabilities, network capabilities, server capabilities? Again, we can support Windows, Linux, Mac agents. There's a different way of installing those devices. We have built-in remote control for those devices. Easy to use, navigate interface, custom scripting, patch management capabilities, and all of that kind of seamlessly is going to come together for you to manage your customer's infrastructure from one single interface. So this is not a Mac, it's a Linux. All right, without further ado, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to please download our product at packetTrap.com. Let me pull up that slide real quick. I'm sure there'll be a landing page for you guys to fill the information out. Cool. Well, thank you for your time, and I'll be looking forward to talking to some of you guys off this webinar, answering some of your questions that you had. All right. Cheers.